To start us off, and we will continue on that note with Dr. Salman Abu Sitta, who has joined us on the screen. Max, can you show him? Yes, he's coming. Yes. Welcome, Dr. Salman. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Again, I would have liked to be there with you in person, but with the technology, I think we can overcome this problem.
Yes, I think this is second
today
best.
is the 75th anniversary of Nakba. To be precise, it's 27,000 days. I have witnessed Nakba as a 10-year-old boy and lived through it all my life. If you have not seen or heard or read about Nakba, you just have to see what's happening in Gaza. Look at your TV screens. This is the culmination and continuation of the same crime which befell the Palestinian people. It is the most unusual and most devastating event in Palestine's 4,000-year history. Even in modern history of colonialism, there is nothing like it. That people uprooted from all their towns and cities, totaling 1,200 towns and cities. 560 of them have been totally uprooted by a series of massacres of about 50 or 60 massacres, done on purpose and in a sequence in order to depopulate the country. A country has been depopulated from its people who lived in it for thousands of years. Places like Ramah and Nasra and Bethlehem, Jesus Christ walked in these streets, and they are destroyed and depopulated by Israel today. And this depopulation not only took place after Israel was declared by Ben Gurion on 14th of May, 1948, but half of the Palestinian refugees were depopulated, made refugees before that, 2 months before that, from April 1948. You have no idea that half the refugees were expelled before there was something called Israel. And before the British were supposed to be guardians of Palestine have left the country. And before any Arab regular soldier was claimed to be invading Palestine, before any soldier entered Palestine. Half the refugees made refugees by the Zionist militia before a state was there. And of course, it did not happen voluntarily. It happened by a series of massacres and all that. There is nothing like it in history whatsoever, that a country completely depopulated, people evicted from their homes, and it became empty in order to receive people from Poland, Russia, and so on, claiming themselves to be the original Palestinians. And I am not the original Palestinian. Imagine a country to be made completely empty and 55,000 names of places, villages, rivers, wadis, hills, mountains, and so on, to be totally erased from the map, totally erased from the map. And a committee sitting at a table carving 6,000 names instead of 50,000 names created by the people of the country over thousands of years. There is nothing like it. History of Palestine is erased for 2,000 years, from Jesus Christ till Balfour Declaration 1917. In Israeli school books, it's empty. There is no people there. There is no country. There is no history. There is no geography. There is nothing like that in history. And that's why I think this aberration in history, this black spot in history, will not continue. There is no way it could continue. So the Palestinians, since then, now we are 14 million people. 9 million of them are refugees, not only those registered at the United Nations, UNRWA, but also people who have not been registered. 9 million people. 14 million people are Palestinian today, but about 90% of them are in Palestine or around it.
Dr. Salman, would you like me to show the slide? Would you like me to show the slides already?
I'll come to that in a moment.
Okay, because I would think it would be nice if you can tell us indeed about the movement of refugees. From where to where did they go, and how did that movement happen?
Yeah, we'll come to that. So this aberration in history will not continue. And of course, the United Nations have repeated 135 times in the last 70 years or so the resolution 194, which calls for the return of the refugees. Every article in any convention says that Palestinians should return to their homes. Why did not they return so far? Why are they still refugees? Because the international law is not applied, because the United States and many countries in Europe are supporting the destruction of Palestine. And this cannot continue. There is no way it could continue. I can cite very quickly examples of any foreign bodies in an environment foreign to them, like Macau in China, Hong Kong in China, and many other places. They did not last. You cannot live in a foreign environment. And therefore, a force, military force, economic force, political force, which keeps Israel dominant in the area, cannot last. There is no question about that. So we come to the question is, if the international law is on our side, if justice and history is on our side, can we actually implement the right of return, which is dictated by the United Nations 135 times? Let us look at the situation. Can we see the first slide, please?
Yes, you can.
Yes, next one. Yes, we know ourselves. We know everything about Palestinians. We know their villages. We know even in refugee camps where they come from, what their land property is. And now they are in what refugee camps? And how long does it take them to walk or to drive for half an hour in a car to reach home? So we know that. We are most documented country in any refugee situation in the world. So if we know where they are, and then we have to plan for the return according to international law. A lot of people say, especially you in Europe, saying, well, you are going to cause a Jewish Nakba. I think this question is racist and immoral. If somebody goes into your home with a machine gun, kills people, and the others push them out in the garden, and they say, we want to go back home, you cannot say that the killer and the burglar and the intruder should stay in your home and you should stay a refugee. That is not logic, not historical, not legal, nothing. So let us then say, if we return, and when we return to be more exact, what do we find? We made a study of every village land, its people now are refugees. Who lives in them? Who are the Israelis who live in them? Can we look at the second slide, please? Could you click? Next one. Yes, you can see, I hardly see from my angle here, but all the green areas are village lands of refugees who have today have little or no refugees. If you count the kibbutz, they are 1 to 2% of the Israeli population. If you count the other occupants of the land, it's the Israeli army. The Jews of Israel live in 12% of Israel. Can we see the next slide? If I can see the next slide.
Yeah. Now you have
click,
red coming up.
Sorry?
Now you have red patches in addition to
Well,
blue ones.
anyway, I can't see from my angle here, but I want to show you how much land is for the cities of Palestine, and I want to show you where the Jews are in the blue area, which is roughly the same area they lived in 1948 under the British Mandate. And then if you click one more, you see circles indicating the population of the Jews in Israel, which really shows that it is mostly around Tel Aviv and in West Jerusalem and in Haifa. So these are the locations where the Jews today are. Now, therefore, if the populated Palestinians return to their villages shown in red dots, there is no conflict. There is no conflict at all, very small conflict. Because the Jews in Israel, if they wish to live in freedom, and like any civilized country, not as Zionists, not as rulers of Palestine, not as supremacists. If you want to live in Palestine like Jews live in England or in Amsterdam, ordinary citizens, then they could be very free in three cantons. Canton 1, which is around Tel Aviv, Canton 2, which is Haifa, Canton 3, West Jerusalem. So if I conclude that by last slide, which makes a summary, final summary, and could you click? Yes? Yes, you see the legend of the map indicates all the areas and what they mean. Legend on the left side top tells you what that means. Now, if we now assume that the return is taking place, how could the return process take place? We have done a lot of work on that. We know in every refugee camps in Jordan, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Gaza, how many people are there and where they come from. We can actually plan their route, actually which bus to take them, how can they walk back. For example, you mentioned Gaza, Dina, you mentioned Gaza. What is Gaza? Gaza is a concentration camp. Gaza is a concentration camp, and the people there come from 247 villages in southern Palestine. Now, in southern Palestine, now they live in Gaza Strip, which is 1.3% of Palestine. People who lived in 50% of Palestine are now crammed in a huge concentration camp. Its area is 1.3% of Palestine. The density of population in this concentration camp, which is bombed by F-16s every day, is 7,000 persons per square kilometers. If they walk 2-3 kilometers to the east, they go back home walking. They don't need buses or ships. They can go back walking. Whom they will find in their place? They will find settlers at a density of 7 persons per square kilometer. That means 1,000 times less than the density of population in Gaza. But we don't stop from there. We can calculate also the routes to take and the economics and so on. But our young people, the young graduates of architecture, they enter into a competition each year. Now it is in the 7th year. We give them selected villages, 10 or 20 each year, and we ask them to rebuild the destroyed villages destroyed by Israel in 1948. We give them the population, the aerial photos of the old village and mass of the village, and now we are in the 7th year of this competition. We have a British jury who dictates or who rules which design is to be the winner. We have 3 winners each year. So far, we have 270 young Palestinian architects who entered the competition. And they do go to make a design of every village. They rebuild it with 10 times the population, with more schools, hospitals, and so on. And it is wonderful how these young people can create Palestinian history and geography. And when they finish their design, the winning design, we show it to the people of that village in the refugee camps. And they say, yes, here was school there, and now this is where our field, and there is well, and so on. And we have no problem creating a very practical plan for the return by numbers, by houses, by even economics. By the way, the cost of building all the destroyed villages, which is about 1.5 to 2 million dwelling units, is cheaper than the money paid by the United States every year to Israel to make it an aggressive country. So law on our side, history on our side, geography on our side, economics and all other facts are on our side. What remains is the brutal force must be removed. And that is the job of every human being who has any spirit of justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As you say, we know where the refugees are. We know where their villages are. We know how to get there, whether by foot or by bus. So in a nutshell, return is feasible. That is a positive note.